Hi everyone, it's Sarah and welcome to my crochet channel. Today's video I'm going to show you how to crochet this fun and silly Christmas pickle ornament. Very easy and very fun to make. Now there is a tradition that says that if you put the Christmas pickle on the Christmas tree on Christmas Eve after the kiddos have gone to bed, the next morning, the first one who finds it gets a special surprise or treat. They say the tradition came from Germany, but I don't think that's true. But it's fun to think that it is. I think it would be fun to make a Christmas pickle and start your own Christmas tradition. This is a free crochet pattern on my blog, and you can find that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. All right, what you need to make a Christmas pickle is some yarn, of course. And we're going to be using I Love This yarn in metallic in the green, the red, and the white. Now, this is a worsted weight number 4 weight yarn. You do not have to use this yarn. Another good yarn is the Karen Party with the Sparkle. Another good yarn is With Love from Red Heart Sparkle. And the truth is, you don't have to use a sparkle yarn. I just think it's fun for Christmas. You can use any worsted weight number 4 yarn that you have on hand. You're also going to need 2 eyes, and I chose to use just these plain eyes, and I wanted them big. These are 1-inch eyes. All right, and you're going to need some fabric glue to put those on, or you can use your glue gun, whichever you want to do. Now, you don't have to use this particular type of eye. You can use the safety eyes if you want to, or you can embroidery on some. It's up to you. I just wanted them to be googly, silly, big eyes. You're also going to need just about a handful of stuffing. We're going to be stuffing the body of the pickle as well as putting a tiny bit in the hat. You'll need your needle for weaving in your ends and, sewing on your hat. And then you'll also need your scissors because we are going to make this teeny tiny pom-pom. The crochet hook that we're using is an H. It's a 5.00 millimeter crochet hook. So you do need a few things to make this pickle, but it's super easy to make, and they're also so much fun. We're going to be starting with the pickle first. We'll make the pickle, and then we'll make the hat and attach them together. So we'll start with our slip knot. We're going to chain 4. We're going to stitch 7 double crochets in the 4th chain from the hook. Our first 3 chains will count as our first double crochet. Yarn over, go in the chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2 loops, yarn over, and go through the second 2 loops. So now we have 2. We need a total of 8, and we're counting our chain 3 as our first double crochet. So I'm stitching 7 more double crochets. Now don't worry if your bottom has a hole in it. We will fix that, not a problem. Alright, let me count, see how many I've got. Here's my chain 3, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to join to the top of the chain 3 with a slip stitch and chain 3. Alright, now don't worry about the bottom. We'll come back and fix that later. Alright, now for row 2, we're going to place a double crochet in the same stitch as our chain 3, and then we'll stitch 1 double crochet in the next. Then we'll stitch 2 double crochets in the next. And 1 double crochet in the next. And then we'll just repeat that around. 2 and 1, 2 and 1. There's 2 and 1 in the next. And make sure that you end up with 12 double crochets. I'm going to flip this out because that's my outside, and then I'm going to count my double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and that makes sense because I need to put one right in that last stitch. Makes 12, and then I'm going to join to the top of my chain 3. I'm going to go ahead and chain 3. And that's how row 2 should look. Now for row 3, we're just going to place 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets around. We're going to have 12 double crochets on each row of our pickle until we get to the end. So I'm stitching 1 double crochet in each double crochet around, and I'll have 12 double crochets. I told you this pickle was super simple. All right. Now, let me make sure I've got my 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Alrighty, counting your row or your stitches is very important. We're going to join to the top of that chain 3 again. And chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. So now that we've established that we place 1 double crochet in each stitch around, join and chain 3, we're going to repeat row 3 for row 4, row 5, row 6, row 7, and row 8. So we'll repeat row 3 5 more times. And that will just give us the length we need for our Christmas pickle. So 1 double crochet in each double crochet around, join, chain 3, and repeat for 5 more rows. So I've done those additional 5 rows, and you should have a total of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rows all together. We're going to, we joined to the top of our chain 3, and then we're going to cut our yarn. But I want you to leave a long tail of yarn, about 12 inches, because we're going to use this to gather the top of our pickle closed. But before we do that, we want to make sure we don't have a hole in the bottom of our pickle. And so we'll take that tail of yarn where we started. We'll thread our needle, and we'll just go around those stitches. There we go. We'll gently close that, and we'll take a couple of stitches, make sure it's not going anywhere. That's going to stay put. And then we'll just put that right up inside the pickle. It's just a string, we don't need to worry about it. So now the bottom of our pickle is closed. We're going to take a little bit of our stuffing, and it's up to you how tightly you want to stuff it. I didn't stuff mine real tight, just enough to make it hold its shape. And be sure and save about a handful or a few fingers full, not even that much, for the hat. Alright, so I'm stuffing the stuffing in there. See, I got way more than I need. We're going to take the other end here and put it on our needle. We'll go through that loop to tie that off. And now we're just going to gather the top of this closed. And we'll just do that by going in and out of the top of those stitches. So our stuffing stays inside. And you don't have to worry about this being too neat. I mean, you don't want it messy, but you don't have to worry about it if a little bit of stuffing's sticking out, because the hat's going to go right on top. And I'm just making a couple stitches across just to make sure it's going to stay closed. Because I don't know about you, but we like to you know, take the ornaments down and play with them or throw them around the room. Alright, so now the pickle is finished. And you can shape it if you want to. If you want it to have a curve in it like a regular dill pickle or not, it doesn't matter. It's up to you. Because it's just for fun, right? Alright, so there's our pickle. And the next thing we need to do is make the hat. Alright, let's do the hat. We're going to be starting at the top of the hat and working down to the hat band. So we're going to begin with our slip knot and chain 3. In the second chain from the hook, we're going to place 6 single crochets. Now, we're going to be stitching in the round. And what that means is we're not going to be joining to that first single crochet. We'll just keep stitching and going around. Alright, so there's our 6 single crochets. Now we're going to place a single crochet in that first single crochet, and then we'll stitch 2 single crochets in the next. Now, if you're going to have trouble keeping track of your rows, it's a good idea to use another piece of yarn as a stitch marker. So we'll grab a piece of this white, and what we'll do is right here where we started our first stitch, we'll just pull that white through, and that will mark our rows and where we began. Alright, so there's our first single crochet. Then we stitch 2 single crochets in the next, 1 and 2. Then we'll stitch 1 single crochet in the next, and then we'll stitch 2 in the next. One and then 2, and that'll give us 9 single crochets. Alright, so actually I put that ahead. It's really on that stitch. So what I'm going to do is take this out, and I'm just going to lay it there, and then I'll know where my next stitch is supposed to go. Alright, so now we're going to stitch 1 single crochet in the first stitch of round 3, then we'll stitch 2, 1, 2, then we'll stitch 1 in the next 2, and then we'll stitch 2. So we're doing just a simple increase here. And then we'll stitch 1 in the next 2, and then 2 in the next, 1 and 2, and then 1 in those last 2. I'm going to pop that out. Now, the way the hat is working is for row 1, we started with 6 single crochets. For row 2, we have 9, and then row 3, we have 12. And we're not going to do any more increases. We're just going to place 1 single crochet in each single crochet around. So I'm moving my marker, and we'll just stitch 1 single crochet in each single crochet around. And you should have 12 single crochets. We're not doing any more increases. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then I'll take my stitch marker and mark my row again. And that just helps me know where my rows begin and end. So what we're going to do is stitch another row of single crochets. So I'll go right in that next stitch. 1, There we go. Got a little stuck on that metallic thread. Nine, 10, 11, and 12. You can see that it's starting to form into the Santa hat. All right, so we're going to do one more row of the red, and then we're going to switch to the white for the hat band. So we'll go right in there and stitch one single crochet in each of the single crochets around for 12 single crochets. Whoops! Yarn jumped across the table. There we go. Almost there. Looks like 2 more stitches, 1 and 2. So this is how it should look at this point. Here is our red section of our hat. And now we're going to add in the hat band. All right, I'm going to cut off that red yarn. And I went ahead and took out that extra piece of yarn just so it's not a distraction because it's the same color as the one I'm adding. All right, so what we're going to do to add in our next color is we're going to go in with our red and pull up a loop. Then we're going to grab our white and just pull that through those loops. Okay, and we're just going to stick those strings inside the hat for now. And then we'll just single crochet in each single crochet around. Make sure you've got your 12 stitches, but don't panic if you've accidentally added a stitch or even 2, because it's really just going to sit on top of the pickle's head and we're going to sew it in place, okay? So don't let that panic you. All right, so we're back where we started, and we're going to make another row to go around that hat so he has a nice wide hat band. There we go. Sometimes it just doesn't want to work. There we go. When you've got those metallic threads running through there, you never know how it's going to work out because sometimes they get broken and other things. All right, so there's the hat with 2 rows. Now on this one I did an extra row. And so what I did is I went ahead and went to the next stitch when I got around there, and I just stitched a row of slip stitch around just to give it a nice edge, and that gives us something also to sew it on with, so we can sew right in that slip stitched edge. So we're just going to go around the edge of the hat and stitch a row of slip stitches. 1 slip stitch in each of the single crochets. And of course the slip stitch is you pull a loop through, then pull that loop through the loop on your hook. It makes a nice braid on the edge. And I do like using it a lot of times for hats for me and headbands for just a nice edge. All right, so we're back around where we started. we're going to tie off, but we're going to leave some yarn so we can sew it onto our pickle. All right, so we're going to pull the loop up. We're going to go in the next stitch from behind, pull the loop in, and then tie that off. And that just gives you a much more finished edge. All right, so let's turn it over. And we need to take a second and weave in these ends with our needle. And then I'm going to show you how to make that teeny tiny little pom-pom for our hat. All right. That one's all weaved in, and now I need to do these two. So here's my little Santa hat. It's all ready to go. And before I put a little stuffing in it, I want to add the pom-pom. And the way I do the pom-pom is I just cut off a little piece, lay that out, and then I take my 2 fingers and I wrap it around just a few times, not a lot, maybe, let's look at that, about 6 or 8 times. All right. And I cut that off. So now I have these little loops, and I'll lay them right across there. And then I'll take those 2 strings and tie them tightly. And then I always do that 3rd knot. There we go. Now we're just going to pull it up like this. Take our scissors. There we go. And just cut off the top. Make sure we got those edges so we get all the loops cut. Then I take a look at it, and you can see I've got a few that are sticking out. So what I usually do is I put my thumb on it and just kind of go around those edges. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be fun. All right, so there's my silly little pom-pom. All right, let's take our hat, and what I do is I'll thread one end on, and I'll go across the top like that. Then I'll take the other end, and I'll go right through those same stitches going across the other way. If my needle will let me in there. There we go. Then I'll knot those 2 together, tying 3 knots, 1, 2, and 3. And then I'll just cut those so that it blends with the rest of the pom-pom. All right, so then look at your hat, decide which side you want to be the front, which side you want to be the back. We're going to grab just a tiny bit of stuffing and stuff it up in that hat. Make sure the opening's open. Thread that onto our needle. And what I do, make sure you put it on the end of the pickle where we sewed it closed. Not the bottom, but the top of the pickle where we gathered and sewed closed. And I kind of pinch it up and stick the hat on. And I try to line it up with that first row, or that 8th row, so that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows showing. All right, and then I just take my thread and I sew it on, and I go down, then I go back and back up, just like this. Catching some of those that we cut off there. Yes, crafting is messy, but it's so worth it, isn't it? And we're stitching through that row of slip stitches that we put on there. And you may have to pull it and adjust it as you go to make it be exactly where you would like it to be. Now, this pickle is going to be hanging from this hat. And so what I do is I look at it, see if I like how it's sitting. And any place that I think it needs an extra stitch, I just go back around and stitch it on. Because remember, like I said, the pickle's going to be hanging from the hat. And so it has to be able to hold it. Now remember, the pickle's really, lightweight. It's just stuffed with stuffing. And we're not adding anything except, eyeballs and a smile. And I usually just go around till my yarn's finished. And then when I'm done, I just shove it down inside, just like that. And I cut the string. All right. Then I just sort of pull it out. All right, this is the one I'm going to use for the front of this particular pickle. And I think I pulled my hat a little bit tight, so I'm going to loosen that up just a little. There we go. All right, so now I need to attach the eyes. And the way I do that is I decide where I want them. And this is what I use. It's called fabric glue. And you can use ones, like I said, that are safety eyes or buttons. And I just put a little bit of the glue on there. There we go. It has string in it. It still does. There we go. And then I just decide where I want it. Now remember, when you're using fabric glue, it's going to take a little bit to dry. There we go. And don't put very much. You can see I didn't put very much. There's my googly eyes. All right, so he needs a smile. So I've got a piece of black yarn here. And you can make a cockeyed smile. You can make a straight up and down smile, however you want. Just what I do is I make the bottom first like this. Leave that out. So I want to kind of keep it simple. Just pull it to the back. And then I do the same thing with this one. I just go in and pull it through the stuffing and to the back. So there's his smile, and the last thing he needs is a hanger. So I just take a piece of yarn, take my crochet hook and go straight through. There we go. Just tie a knot however long you want the hanger to be. And that is how fun and easy it is to make a Christmas pickle. Make one for you, give one to your friend. They're just so much fun and they just make me laugh. So I think it's time for you to start a new Christmas pickle tradition.